How's it going? I'm Jared Gillis. Welcome to another All About RVs. Today, I want to share with you the dash cam that we installed on our truck for RVing, and it's a bit more than a dash cam and why we chose the one that we chose. So I don't know if you've ever gone shopping for a dash cam, but there's a million of them out there and they all seem really similar. So I wanted to try and find the dash cam that would work for me, that had the features I wanted and the quality I was looking for. This is the little baby dent in the bumper that pushed me over to want to get a dash cam, because we were running errands one day and went to about 4 or 5 different places. At the end of the day, I noticed we had a little dent in our bumper, and I know somebody noticed that they hit the car and they didn't leave a note. So it would have been nice to be able to figure out with the dash cam where it happened actually during that day. So some of these dash cameras can help you figure out when that happened throughout the day. And RVers are often getting cut off. Somebody sees the larger vehicle coming. They don't want to get behind you. They don't want to be stuck behind you, so they'll end up cutting you off. And it's not always that easy to slow down with as much room as you have in front of you. So having a dash cam can be helpful while you RV. So let's get into more of that. So this video is not sponsored by Garmin, but I do have 4 Garmin dash cams, and I'm going to talk about the differences and why we chose the one that we chose. So what we have here is we have the 67W, we have the 57, we have the 47, and the cute little Mini 2. So let's break it down and look at what these cameras have to offer for RVing. So on that note, I do want to thank Techno RV. They are the ones that sent over these 4 cameras. I'm going to be sending the majority of them back after this video, but they sent them over so I can look at the differences, check them out, and know which one that I want and be able to pass that information on to you guys so you guys can make an informed decision. So if you're in the market for a dash camera, I don't think this is an essential gear for RVing, but I think it's a great addition for RVing. So you can check it out on their website and you can save 5% if you use code AllAboutRVs5. So you can save 5% on these dash cameras. So the 4 dash cameras, we start off with the first one. The first one doesn't have a screen. So it's the mini dash camera, and you can connect it to the app to be able to change a lot of those settings that are inside, and you can still voice activate to be able to do some of this stuff. But this is going to be recording at 1080p at a 140-degree angle. And so the step up, you gain a screen. So the top 3, you gain a screen in all of these cameras. So these top 3 tiers, they also have a battery inside. So it's not going to last super long, but it's long enough that you can pull it off and go through the menus, look at the files, and do what you needed to. But for the actual recording and having that be sustained, you want this connected into power the entire time. That first one, the Mini, doesn't have a battery backup, so it needs to be connected to power all the time. And there's no screen, so you're not going to be pulling it off and trying to do any of those features away from power. So it makes sense that way. So the one that I am liking the most is the 57, because we step up quite a bit in the resolution that it can film in. So the 57 also has the 140-degree lens, and it can film in 1440p. So we're stepping up in the resolution that we can film using this 57 camera. So each one is just kind of a step up. And then when you step all the way up to the 67, it goes to the 180-degree lens. So you're filming in that 1440p at 180 degrees. That's basically a straight line in everything that's in front of that camera. Now, before I get into what I liked and didn't like about the camera, it's kind of interesting that you could actually link 4 of these together. So if you wanted to get a view from every side of your RV, you could do that and link 4 of these together. And I liked the way that this mounted, all except for the Mini. The Mini just uses an adhesive pad and it sticks to the dash or the windshield, however you'd like to mount that. But all the other 3 have a piece of metal that goes onto the dash or the windshield, and then it has a magnet on there, and so it can magnetize on there. So you get 2 of these, so I thought this was really interesting. So if you wanted to have this in your daily driver, you just have 1 magnet in there, and then if you want it in your RV, you're going on a trip, you can just unmagnetize from the inside of your daily driver and put this in the inside of your RV. So then you could have a dash camera that can cover both vehicles and not have to have this big changeover. It's just a magnet, pull off, magnet, put on to the other vehicle. So really handy. It's just a really simple piece of metal that adheres to the windshield. We've been in the summertime and haven't had any issue. They could have put like a little logo on there, maybe like a compass or a life compass as a starting point or something stamped on there, but it works great. You just stick it to where you would like to mount it, and then it just magnetizes directly onto this. And then for the mount, it just has a little ball movement on there. So if you needed to rotate it or move it, it just has a friction ball mount on there so you can aim it and point it where you need to. The next thing is the size, as this thing is pretty small. It's about the size or a little bit smaller than a GoPro, so an action camera kind of thing. It's about the same size. This has a little bit more of a bulky kind of mounting system. This is very small and streamlined. So where I put this, because there is a legality question of where you can use these and where you're not allowed to use them. So some states you can, some states you can't. You can't have your view out the windshield being obstructed. So I put this behind the rear view mirror, so I really can't even see it from where I sit inside the truck. So from the driver's seat, you don't even really see it. It sits behind the mirror. It doesn't obstruct the view at all. It takes up less space on the windshield than the oil change sticker, but it really doesn't take up any of the view from here. That's the way that I like it. I don't like the distractions of things on the dash. Now, the other option that you have on the inside that you might want to turn off in some states is the audio. It can record audio inside the vehicle, and in some places that may not be allowed depending on what the rules are in that state. So it's a really simple menu just to be able to turn it off. And talking about the menus, this thing's pretty easy to navigate, and you have the app. So if you want to go in and change the settings, you don't want to try and look at behind the rear view mirror trying to get to any of those or pulling it off, disconnecting it from power, you can use the app to do that as well. So it's really simple. It depends on what your preference is. I set it up using the buttons on the back and navigating through the menus, and now I've changed things going through the app too. So either way works fantastic. Now let's look at some of the additional features that are built into this, because the top three with the screens, it has alerts and sensors depending on your driving condition. So if you're sitting at a stoplight, this one works consistently almost all the time. So if you're sitting at a stoplight and the traffic leaves in front of you, it'll alert you that, hey, the traffic is moving. So even if you're on it and you start to follow right away, it usually alerts you pretty quick that traffic is moving. It has lane detection too, and this doesn't work all the time, but if you're leaving the lane, it'll give you a little alert that, hey, are you meaning to leave the lane? And then it also has like a collision detection. So if you're coming up on something quickly and you need to brake, it'll give you a little alert that, hey, there's something in your way and you need to slow down. Those don't work all the time. Sometimes you leave the lane and it doesn't work. Sometimes you're just approaching a shadow and it'll give you a little alert. It hasn't been super distracting, but you can turn that on. You can turn it off if you like it. So it really hasn't bothered me. So I've been keeping it on and just trying it out for a while. Oh, and one more that I almost forgot about is it has a red light alert. So it has a database built into it. And because this is built by Garmin, it has all the information for where your location is. So you can have that stamped at the bottom. But it'll give you an alert if you're going to be going through an intersection that has a red light camera and that you need to check your speed. So it'll just give you a little alert. Like I said, you can turn that on or off, but it has these alerts for while you're driving. And I don't have it where I can see the screen, but it's pretty obvious when you just hear that little ring go off or that little bell. You don't really need to look at the screen to know what it's saying. You can tell as long as you're paying attention, and you should be paying attention when you're driving. Now these dash cams have a looping feature built into them so that you don't have to worry about filling up the memory card. I put in a larger memory card so that it could store more on here and have a bigger buffer of how much I am recording, but I don't have to worry about filling it up, because if I get to the old stuff and I haven't chosen to save it, then it's just going to rewrite over those video files. So you can have hours of footage on here, but if something were to happen and you wanted to save that footage, you can just tap this bottom button and it'll save kind of the minute before and what was happening at that time. If you wanted to be hands-free, you could just say, okay, Garmin. So you can save the video, you can save a picture, you can save the audio, or you can record audio, or you can save a travel lapse. So that hands-free feature is kind of neat. Now that travel lapse is kind of like a hyperlapse, but it's not quite like a hyperlapse that you would get from an action camera or your phone. It's going to be a little bit more choppy. Say you were driving 265 miles from St. Louis and you wanted to record that whole thing. You could record it all in one big travel lapse. So I've noticed that if you're going about 3 hours, that would be about a gig of storage. So you can just kind of plan that out. So some of those longer drives, say you're driving 530 miles from Pittsburgh, it might be a little bit far to do a travel lapse and try and include all that. That would be a lot to drive. But it's fun that it has that built into there, so you can kind of log your expedition if you're heading up to Oregon or something like that. You can log that into here and use that as part of the tool. Now, my preference for a hyperlapse would be an action camera, because it's going to be a higher quality, but it's going to take up a lot more storage and it's going to eat through a lot more battery. It's not built the same. So you couldn't do a really long drive on an action camera either, like a 415-mile drive from New Orleans. You just couldn't do it on something like that. But it's interesting to have on there. Now let's talk about image quality, because the image quality is good, it's satisfactory, it's not wowing, it's not going to be like a GoPro 10 where it's just amazing, but that's not the function and purpose of this camera. In bright sunlight, it's going to do great. This is meant to document your driving, your traveling, to see if there's any problems, and you can save it and have it when you need it. It does fine in dusk. You start losing a little bit of the depth and how far you can see the later that it gets. And at night, when your lights are on, it's going to illuminate the area. It starts to get a little bit grainy on the edges. So if you see a Bigfoot or Sasquatch, it might be a little bit hard to see. You might be looking at the video, what is that? It's grainy enough to look like Bigfoot footage, but then you realize, no, that's just Jared heading west on the trail at night. So as far as quality, it's satisfactory for what you're looking for and what you want it to do. A couple other features that stood out to me is it has some auto detect features in there. So if you have it in a parking situation that you've pulled up and you've parked the vehicle and it detects that it's parked, it's sitting there for a while, and then it shakes, it's going to record what happened there. It would have been wide enough to have seen who hit our car at that time. So it also has the features if you're driving down the road and you have a collision. We've had it where we hit a rumble strip when we're going into a turn lane, and it rattles enough on there that it'll notice that, hey, something might have happened and I'm going to save this video. But it's kind of nice that it gives you those saved features, because if you did get in a collision, you may not necessarily be thinking, hey, I should reach up now that I've stopped and press that button and save the video, or okay, Garmin, save that video. It may not be at the top of your mind, so it's nice that it has those auto save features built right into it. So overall, all these dash cameras, when you get behind the wheel, are going to do what you're wanting a dash camera to do. They're going to record and film what's happening in front of you. So everything from this mini one, the budget one, up to the 67. So they're going to be able to recount everything that you were doing, the steps that I was taking. So if I was heading west and then I came to the T and I turned left, it's going to be able to recount that. So if you have any problems or issues, it's going to be able to recount exactly what happened. But I wanted to give you my thoughts on this lineup, because Techno RV did a great job with a video giving you each feature and what you're getting at each step up as you go from this Mini all the way up to the 67. So my thought is the Mini 2 is a great budget entry camera. It doesn't have the screen, it doesn't have the battery, but it's still going to have the cable to be able to plug into. You're going to be able to mount it, and it's going to record everything while you're driving. So that's the purpose of a dash camera. And then when you step up from there to the 47, you're gaining that screen on the back, the battery, and all those extra bells and whistles and features built into it. So this one, the 47, is probably the best bang for the buck. And then when you step it up to the other top two tier ones, you're gaining the higher resolution, but then you're choosing between, do I want a 140-degree lens or do I want a 180-degree lens with the 67? They actually do have another dash camera, and it's built into their GPS, but it's basically the 47 built into that GPS. But that's basically their lineup of all their dash cameras. So I think that's gonna do it for today. I hope this video helps you guys out. If it's something that you've been considering or you've been looking at the different options, I hope this video helps you make that decision. So like I said, that's gonna do it for today. If you guys like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you wanna see more videos about RVing, hit that subscribe button. If we don't see you on the road, hopefully we will. See you next video.